views expressed on Town Hall are not necessarily those of KATU or Fisher Broadcasting Incorporated.
In 1916, a group of citizens interested in public affairs and civic improvement formed the City Club of Portland. In 1976, Town Hall began televising debates of the important issues facing our community. Tonight, marking the 75th anniversary of City Club, these two forums for civic debate join together to examine the burning issue of our time, the loss of faith in government. Many voters feel politicians don't listen. Elected officials are frustrated by this lack of trust. How can we restore faith in government? Citizens and politicians, face to face, next on Town Hall.
And now, your moderator, Jack Faust.
Hi, it's the 75th anniversary of the City Club, and with their enormous cooperation, we are here, as you can see, Town Hall is here in Pioneer Courthouse Square to talk about something that should be of interest to all Americans, and that is a marriage on the rocks. The marriage between our office holders and the people. And it is a marriage. We have the same property, we have the same money, should have the same concerns, and yet we hear the signs of a broken marriage. One side says, hey, you don't listen to me. You're wasting my money. The other side says, you don't care anymore. You don't know what's going on. And that's the signs of a broken marriage. Let's start off by meeting the parties. First, I'll introduce to you the office holders. No applause is necessary, please. Starting to my right, State Senator Shirley Gold, Representative Gail Shibley, Multnomah County Sheriff Bob Skipper, and the Mayor of Gresham, Gussie McRobert, our State Secretary of State from Portland, Phil Keisling. Off far to the other side, we have Representative Mike Burton. We have Steve Stolze, who is the Mayor of Tualatin. We have City Commissioner Gretchen Kafoury here, and also former County Commissioner. And we have with us also former County Commissioner, present City Commissioner Earl Blumenauer, and his dear friend, State Representative Vera Katz. And to my left, we have what I'm going to call our special guest, because he's related to both sides of the marriage. It's Neil Goldschmidt. Neil is now a private citizen and taxpayer, but he has held office at the national level, the state level, the local level. Secretary of Transportation, Governor, and Mayor, City Commissioners, you know. So we kind of put him in both camps. We also have, from the office holder side in our audience, we have State Senator Ron Cease there, County Commissioner Pauline Anderson, Washington County Commissioner Bonnie Hayes. It's good to have them. And now to turn to our other special guests, to welcome all of you, the citizens of Portland, Vancouver, wherever you're from, who've come out here on this beautiful sunny day on Pioneer Courthouse Square. And I'm going to start off by putting a question to you, the citizens. I'm going to make a statement, and I want a show of hands as to how many agree. And the statement is, we've lost the trust in our government. How many of you would agree with that statement? Well, our viewers can see that, an enormous show of hands. Right there, plaid shirt, about the 1, 2, 3, 4th row. Yes, you. Would you please stand up? Identify yourself and tell our viewers, give them one reason. I'm looking for reasons. Give them a reason why you think people have lost trust in their government.
My name is Joe Keating. I'm the state coordinator of the Pacific Party. And I first want to congratulate the City Council yesterday on a job well done.
Let's get out. Now, wait a minute. They'll accept your congratulations, Joe. We've got a lot of people want to talk. Give us one reason why people have lost their faith in government.
I want to, we're around the state organizing, and one of the main reasons people are dissatisfied and feel disenfranchised is that they feel that folks with money are basically controlling our electorate. And we need a new campaign reformation and financing plan that's going to make some difference.
I'll take that as one reason, because we are trying to get a list of reasons. One reason has been given. Too much influence from people with money. What's another reason someone out there has? Right there, ma'am. Yes, you. Right there. Yes, black, purple lining. Give me another reason. We've heard that there's too much influence of money. What's your reason?
My name's Gina Houston from Jennings Lodge Island of the Oregon City School District. And I think one reason, among many, is that our elected officials and even our government's employees have gotten lost in the numbers. We're just a dollar sign or a vote to these people. We're not citizens with real problems and real concerns anymore.
Lost touch with individual citizens. Another reason. Someone who wants to give me another reason. Right there in the corner. Yeah, there you are.
My reason for having... Yes, can you all hear me? Yes, I have a very personal reason for having lost faith in our government.
Let's first, I'm going to ask, excuse me, I'm not going to ask you that we not get into specific cases. Give us a general, this is your chance to address the big picture. Give us a reason, the moral of your story. Why are people losing faith in government?
Okay, in my case, I used to believe that every American citizen was, had the right to have a fair trial, due process, and justice. However, I have personally had my $25 million estate stolen by an attorney.
And please, the moral. What's the moral of that? Because we really don't want to get into individual cases.
The moral is it takes a lot of public scrutiny to make sure that our freedoms are maintained, because the society of sheep will soon beget a government of wolves.
Okay, it takes too much scrutiny to make it work. How about over here? Right there, you, sir. Give me another reason. What reason have we missed?
Francesco Patricolo, a lack of common vision.
A lack of common vision. By that you would mean they have their own vision, rather than a vision in common with the people? Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Exactly, he says. And right there, let's take print-colored dress, right hand up. Cheryl, can you move over there about... Tell our viewers we've got actually several hundred people here.
I'm Ruth Bendel, Washington County. Enough is enough in Oregon. And I'm concerned about the lip service to citizen involvement, but when we ask questions, when we do anything to really be involved, but we disagree, anybody who disagrees has to be wrong. And we can't get compliance, we can't get any kind of answers that we can believe are true. We want truth from government, that's it.
Okay, there's really two reasons. One is you're not getting truth from government, and the other is they pay only lip service to citizen involvement. They're not really listening. Right there, there's a woman there in about the third row. Yes, you?
I'm Susan Hudson, and my concern is planning that takes place where it has an impetus from maybe a special interest group, and then they come forward with a plan to take hearings from public input, and if somebody speaks out and says, hey, maybe this isn't quite such a good idea, the response tends to be, you're against us immediately. And so we find ourselves in doing advocacy many times in an adversarial position when, in point of fact, we may have some very creative ideas that could be the solution. Okay, there she's saying when they ask for input, when we give it to them, if we don't agree, they just say you're being negative. And let's see, let's see if we can get there. There's a man there. Yes, no, you, sir, right there. We are with a shirt and tie. I can barely see you. Yes.
Well, one obvious reason that people have lost faith in their politicians is apparent ethical lapses by so many at high levels, excepting, of course, everybody before us. But we have many examples in the news today, and that certainly contributes to a lack of trust.
Ethical lapses. Now, we're getting a pretty good list. Let's see if we can just take one more. What have we forgotten that's really important? Really important that we've forgotten. You, sir, dark glasses there? Yes, I can see.
Mine, I'm Clyde Brummel from the Oregon State Homeowners Association. The thing that concerns us is the ability to earn dollars per hour in relation to the needs of public spending. We can't pay the taxes. We're getting tired of this problem, so we need to create something to raise our dollar per hour earnings in the state of Oregon.
Okay, I think that relates again to the spending issue. With that, let me turn to our panelists. And you've heard the checklist. I don't think that there's anything there that should surprise you. Again, we heard it. We heard you don't listen. And you're always hearing that you waste the money. And that you talk about involvement, but you don't really believe it because you reject our input. How do you respond to that? Who wants to respond to that from the panel here? Who wants to answer those charges? You all pleading guilty? Okay. Senator Gold.
775-9612. It's in the phone book under Shirley Gold. Has been there forever. So I challenge you to try me on input and participation and listening.
But Shirley, let me say this. But are you saying that they're wrong? Are they wrong when they say that their input is being rejected?
I can't answer that in generalizations. I can only answer for myself, and
Are
that's
they
the way
wrong,
I did.
panelists? Right there, Mayor.
No. Jack, no, I think that the citizenry, one of the things that they don't understand, or they seem to forget, that we as politicians, starting at the local level and working up to the state level, used to be one of the people sitting out there. And we do have concerns, and we do have ideas that we want to listen to. And we do listen to, and I know in our local level and in the involvement that I've been in before in the state level, that they do listen. They do listen to the ideas, they listen to the input, and they weigh that against the facts of the matter. And it's not necessarily your facts are right and your facts are wrong. It's just there's stronger weights given. And it's stronger weights given because of the issues.
Now the mayor says, no, we do listen. Are you comforted? This is one of our citizens want to okay, you're saying no. Why aren't you comforted by that? There, I can't describe that color, but the necklace. Go right to that necklace. The lady with her necklace. Unless she was shaking her head very vigorously that no, she wasn't comforted. Why weren't you comforted?
Pat Transu, a former teacher, a former council member, a former planning commission member, a citizens advisory committee member, and democracy is the best in the world. But our problem is apathetic people that allow you, all of you, too much freedom. Freedom to do as you like, freedom to do what you want, and not listen to what the people have to say.
Now,
no jurisdiction.
Okay.
No jurisdiction of all state agencies.
All right, looks like she's not comforted by that. I guess that's the moral. Any other comments? We're talking about responsiveness. Vera Katz, you're leaning forward to your microphone.
Yeah, I think, in fact, you're probably right. Many times we don't listen. The question and the answer we need to get at is, how can we gain trust and respect among each other that when the elected officials make a decision that doesn't agree with your perspective, that we can still move the governmental process on?
Now, before we get creative here, I'm going to pursue something you said. You said you entered a partial plea of guilty. I'm going to ask you, why don't you always listen? Why? Why do you reject the advice of the people who elected you?
There's many times there's not enough time, there's not enough interest. In many cases, elected officials have already made up their mind, and they aren't able to remove the earmuffs and listen. So it's beholden on us that we make an extra effort to remove the prejudices and the biases that we have and truly listen. That is very difficult to do.
All right. I'd like to move on to something else we heard that comes up, and that is the influence of special interests. And what I'm going to ask is this. I'm going to step out here, and I'm going to ask our panelists for a show of hands this time. How many of you agree that special interests have too much influence on government? How many agree? Oh, we have. Are you agreeing? Do we have just one disagreeing? That comes right to you. Mayor of Gresham, Gussie McRobert, you don't agree.
Well, I think the definition of a special interest group is somebody who represents a group that maybe you don't agree with. So I think all of you are special interest groups, and you say, why don't we listen? There isn't a decision that we can make that doesn't make somebody mad. And one of the reasons we don't agree is that we're hearing different things. One group says, do it this way, and another group says, do it this way. So we'll have one group very happy and another group mad.
All right, let's turn to our panelists who say, yes, there's too much influence of special interests. Who wants to tell me how this hurts the process? Phil Keisling, Secretary of State. Volunteers?
We've reached the point in this state where I think money often just drowns out the message that people have. People we have running for the legislature are often spending $12 to $15 for every vote that they get. And it's not just that they're bought and sold to do particular things. It's that they often just don't want to do anything at all because they risk offending somebody that's very powerful.
And this can be a powerful group. It's actually a small group, too, isn't that correct?
It's often a small group. And the other thing is it's what I would consider to be political junk food, much of what people are spending this money on. People send out literature and bombard the populace with saying, I'm for safer streets, I'm for a cleaner environment, and I'm for lower taxes and more efficient government. Raise your hands, those people out here who are against those things.
No hands.
We are not having a dialogue, and we have the least common denominator. I call it mutually assured disengagement, where politicians don't step out and say something and address specific questions, and at the same time, the public doesn't stand up and say no to negative campaigning and no to intellectually dishonest campaigning. The problem is a lot of this works, and we need to get the public engaged as well.
Mike Burton, and the topic again, the influence of special interests. Mike?
Special groups, small groups have an influence that's there, and it's okay in a lot of cases. The big problem, as Phil mentioned, is the money that's in it, and the amount of money, and what happens in our system, particularly in the legislature, where you're running every 2 years, is the chase gets after money. It's get more money to get into office. And we don't put any caps on it in Oregon. We've got an initiative out. I've tried 4 times, 5 times in the legislature to get that out. There is an initiative out that'll put a lid on it, and that's one of the things that'll help it. But right now, what happens with this, I think, is a lot of times is we're going out to find bucks. The first thing you ask yourself when you get in the legislature is when do you get to go home? The second thing is when do we be able to have our first fundraiser for the next election? And that amount of money and the influence in it, the cost of this is way out of proportion in the state to what it should be, and we've got to bring a cap down. And it's whoever raises the most money to give to those that has the most influence in the legislature.
Now, Earl Blumenauer, since you've been in the state legislature and city government, I'm going to put you on the spot. A question was raised, the definition of special interests. I'm going to ask you to say, I'm going to ask you, who are these? You were concerned about special. I'm going to ask you, who are they? Now, don't name corporation names or group names, but tell me the issues. Identify them by the issues that you think are the special interests.
Well, what we've had occur is a proliferation and a refinement of the special interest methodology. For instance, I don't think you could get the bottle bill through the Oregon legislature again if you were starting from scratch. You could 20 years ago.
What other issues do you think are really impacted by special interests?
Well, what I think what has happened is that every association, every trade group, every business, every city. I found out recently that there's a group of local governments that are going to hire a lobbyist to lobby a citizen-appointed commission that is dealing with the Metro Council. You have, what, 1,200 registered lobbyists now? 1,400? You have it's reached the point where the sophistication in terms of direct mail and turning people out, for whom their entire political goal in life is one specific thing. And if that legislator or that county commissioner or that whoever is against their one specific thing, then they're marked for extinction. And what you've ended up doing is that you've created such a system where there aren't the checks and balances, and you have fractured the political process, and far more money is spent lobbying the lobbyists, the legislatures, than electing them, and that, I think, is pernicious.
All right. Now, wait, no, excuse me. I'm going to turn it back to our citizens here. Now, you've heard your elected representatives say that they're concerned about special interests. In fact, you've heard a ringing condemnation of special interests from them. Does that comfort you? Right there. You're shaking your head no, citizen. Yes, you. Camel coat.
Steve Buckstein with Cascade Policy Institute. The reason we all agree that special interests and money are getting too important is that there's something to buy. And what there is to buy are the things that government is doing supposedly for us, but in too many cases to us, that they shouldn't be doing. If we reduce the power of government and be able to do more things for ourselves, the special interests won't have the influence they have. Don't limit the special interests, limit the power of government to do these things that we're all interested in.
All right, time is rolling along here. We've heard our citizens have come at our office holders. When we come back, our office holders are going to come at them and ask them and say to them, why aren't they more effective at getting the kind of government they want? Office holders turn next when we come back, right after this.
I see a lot of patients that I've taken care of for now close to 25 years. To be to be part of their lives in a helpful way. It's a great opportunity, it's a great challenge, it's a great privilege, you know. And now to see them established, having their own families, their own children, there's no other profession or work that I could possibly do.
Kaiser Permanente, the health-caring people.
Fabulous. Sergeant, we live our dreams today.
Life's too short for compromise.
Actually, we get paid to say stuff like this. We're just actors. I'll take this one.
But U.S. Bank hired us to say that sometimes you should ignore people like us.
Especially when we use credit like this. No tomorrow. Put it on my card. Because the only time we can live like this is on TV. Ooh, what do you think, Brian?
It's ridiculous. We'll take it.
They murdered their wives. They were caught, convicted, and sent to prison. But now they demand to be free. Claiming they were battered husbands, these inmates insist their crimes were justified. Citing similar cases where battered women were acquitted, they charge the justice system with sexual discrimination. Should battered husbands be acquitted of murder? Next, Donahue. Monday at 3, before Oprah at 4 on KATU Channel 2.
When Channel 2 News asked you to help us get to the bottom line of government spending, hundreds of viewers called our special telephone hotline. As a result, many of your suggestions have become stories on our newscasts. You can help Channel 2 News uncover wasteful use of your tax dollars. If you know of wasteful government spending, call the Channel 2 News Bottom Line Hotline at 231-4250. Together, we can help government watch the bottom line. Call 231-4250.
Oh, I certainly believe in miracles. They happen all the time.
Thousands of people attend religious healing services. Do miracle cures really happen?
I had a little tumor on my hand get healed over a prayer group meeting, and I am not a religious person whatsoever.
We'll hear from people who believe they've experienced miracles next week on Town Hall.
Okay, the office holders stood up to the charges of special interests, lack of concern for citizen involvement, etc. Now it's their turn, and we're going to put the question to them to put to you, citizens, and put you on the spot. And the question is, you control this government, you elect these people, and the question is, why aren't you more effective in getting the kind of government you want? And I'll ask our office holders for the reasons. What are the reasons why citizens are not as effective as they'd like to be in getting the kind of government they want? Who's got an answer for me? Shirley, Gold, what's one reason?
I guess you often relinquish your right to participate by not participating.
Apathy. Apathy is one. What's another reason? There's apathy. What's another reason? You got it? Expert Steve, Mayor.
I think a lot of the problem, especially that I see in the city level, is single-issuedness. People come in, they have one issue, they deal with that. When that issue's over, they're out. They're gone. Don't talk to us again.
Apathy, single issue. What are other reasons the citizens are not effective? Mayor.
That we have not, as governments, helped our citizens be effective. We have had...
You're turning it back to government. I want you to preach to them, if you could.
Well,
what have I missed?
We are helping them understand the system so that they can be effective. And I have literally sat with people and helped them plan out their presentation so they could beat City Hall.
Let's get our list for them. Representative Shibley, what are the reasons why they're not more effective? Another reason.
Another one has to do with education, just basically understanding the civics of our government. It's big, it's complicated, we need to take the time to understand it so we can be effective in advocating.
Lack of understanding. What have we missed? What's off the list, Vera Katz?
The inability to break through the bureaucracy that every institution...
It doesn't sound to me like that's their problem.
No. Oh, no, you're right. It's not their problem, but it ties into the lack of education and not understanding the system, because the bureaucracy won't allow them to come through.
Okay.
Jack,
Neil Goldschmidt, go ahead.
I just want to add
Citizen Goldschmidt.
I think a common trait shared by all, and it's real simple, people keep telling us to stop doing stuff, and then they want the service and don't want to pay for it.
Jack.
All right. Let's...
Jack, this...
Quickly, Earl, please. I want to turn to them.
One of the most important problems is time frame. People have this sense of wanting something done instantly.
Oh, that's the American prayers. Is the Lord grant me patience, and I want it right now.
Well, Jack, everything that I can recognize about 50 of the interest groups that are here, everything that are people talking about actually does, in fact, take some time, some give and take. And I think that this impatience is something that is a very serious problem.
All right, citizens, how do you respond? The charges are you're apathetic, you lack information, you get too much on single issues, you expect too much, and you want it now. Response right there, you, sir, front row. You don't need to stay. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Barry Mattern, and I called this number this morning. It's 229-5902. It is the Justice Department. I was questioning a telemarketing firm.
Could you get to your point on responding to this, please?
The point is, see, I did something. What I got was transferred to transferred to transferred to transferred. I don't know, they said.
He says, okay, I tried to be responsive. He tried to be non-apathetic. Right there, front row. Right there, front row, in a very bright outfit.
Hi. What I'd like to say is there are two sets of government officials. There are one set that are trying to be elected, and then there's another set that are actually elected. You know, I mean, they're very responsive when you're trying to get the vote. But then when it comes time to actually do all the things that they've promised they're going to do, it doesn't happen.
What do you say, though, about this? Are the citizens, are people apathetic? Is there a lack of information? Let me put this question to you. Do you expect too much? Is there anyone here? Let me see a show of hands. Who says we expect too much? We expect too much. Say right there, you, sir. Let's ask him. Let's ask him to get up. You're pleading guilty for the citizenry.
Yes. We expect the people to take a leadership position and not be milquetoast. And the fact of the matter is, there's so many different variables to be handled that by one person it's almost unmanageable. And so you cannot please all the people at the same time.
All right, citizenry. Who else wants to talk about yourselves, the citizens? Right, let's see. Right there, there's a woman back there in white. White blouse.
I think that the citizens are too influenced by 15-second sound bites and don't go into the complexity of what these men and women are facing. That when I hear someone start a statement by saying, all you got to do is just, I know they don't know what's going on.
Can you get, there's a man over there in a blue sport coat, light blue sport coat. Yes, sir.
Yes, Frank Eisenzimmer. I'm the chief petitioner for term limits. I'd like to address Neil Goldschmidt's comment. He says we're not willing to pay for it. According to Oregon Tax Research figures, we pay, the average wage earner in this state pays 37% of their gross income in taxes, in state, federal, local, and hidden taxes. Add to that Social Security, which is 15%. We're paying over 52% of our gross income in taxes. If that's not enough, how much do they want? Sweden's not making it because socialism doesn't work. When are we going to figure out socialism isn't going to work in America?
Let me put the special interest question to the audience. I'm going to ask you, how many people here, for a show of hands, how many people here are representing a special interest group?
How many people have appeared
How many
before
people here
government
are representing a special interest group?
State government.
Now audience, we have maybe 10 to 12 hands. Panelists, what do you think of it? No, I hear no's. Gretchen, Kafoury, you say you don't believe that head count. Why not?
We're interpreting special interest as always a negative thing, and I think that a good portion of the people right in this group are special interest and come to government, and that's what it's all about. So it isn't an evil thing. People are going to come and articulate for things they believe in. Sometimes we will agree with you, and sometimes we won't, but we have to make decisions.
Neil Goldschmidt, you've been at hearings at the national, state, and local level. Who comes to hearings? What kind of input do you get?
Well, first I want to share Gretchen's comment. I think it's nothing wrong with being a special interest. I think the question is what happened to everybody else. The second point I would like to make is that it's a process of exhaustion. I don't think anybody who's ever tried, whether by telephone or any other way, comes away with anything, but you almost have to have a cast iron rear to survive the process. And I think...
Whose fault is that?
I think that's everybody's fault. I think the machinery is set up to wear you down.
All right. Right there, you, sir. Yes, getting up, leaning forward.
Yes, I think that we've caught ourselves in a dilemma here. I don't think we need to cast black and white hats here. I think we're all victims of the situation. We have more needs than we have revenue. That's simplistic. We need leadership with vision. That's one of the things that was not mentioned in your list of things that you mentioned earlier, Jack. What we're saying here is that I don't think we need to blame public leaders because they themselves are either time or money, experience, etc. We as citizens, hold on, we as citizens, on the other hand,
wrap it up,
have to volunteer most of the time when we want to take on an issue.
Okay, let's see if you do.
We can't find an attorney or a lobbyist or a well-heeled organization.
Let's see if you do. I'm going to ask for a show of hands, and let's be honest. How many people here have attended a public hearing before an agency of government in the last 12 months? How many? That doesn't say much for the charge of apathy. I'd say that's about 50%, doesn't it? How do you respond to that? Does that surprise you? Is that what you'd expect, Mike Burton?
It doesn't surprise me here because this is sort of a mirror. This is kind of nose prints we've got going on. I think the lady up here hit it right, though, because part of the problem we've got is the 60-second soundbite form of government. Right now, everything is in response of very short terms. Everybody expects an immediate response, an instantaneous turnaround of things, and sometimes the issues are so complex they need to be worked through. Understanding tax systems in this state is extremely difficult to do because we've got an interrelationship of a number of taxes, and there are no simple answers for some of these things. The other part of it is that some of us are part-time, and I think there's an expectation on the part of citizens. I have a lot of people that think I do this full-time, that I'm in the legislature as a full-time job. I'm not. I have another real job. I sit down and go to community meetings. I go to dozens of those every month. And I sit to talk to people, and I get lots of response, and they're not the people that are here, they're the people in my neighborhood, and their reaction is different than this one. I don't think that the public generally has as much dissatisfaction with what I do as a politician as this group does, because they've had something that they've lost.
All right, right there. Woman there. Right there, right in front of you, Mike. You got her.
I just don't understand what
Speak up, please.
I just don't understand why loyalty has to do with money. It seems that most of the elections that go on, you know, the more money that you have to put into an election, the more people are going to hear you. And you see people going on strike here who don't have enough money and who are against the government, and they don't have enough money to back up what they're saying, and they don't get heard as much as the people who do.
All right, there, again, the point of the influence of money right there, ma'am. Front row.
I think it begins with day one. I think there's a missing link. When I go to the polls and vote one of you people in, I expect you, and I vote for you because I feel you are going to feel what I feel. But I've been hearing a lot of you saying, well, what I think. And I think, how often do you go back into your communities, the people that voted you in, and talk to them about the issues you're thinking on deciding on? Because it should be their opinion, not yours.
Let me put another thing we've heard here is that often we hear the people don't have enough information. If they had more information, they might not disagree with us. I know politicians often think of that. I'm going to pick someone who doesn't have his or her hand up. I'm going to pick you right there in the front row. Yes, you, young lady, in the brown coat. Yes, you. Jeans, stand up, please. Here's a young woman, I believe. Are you part of the City Club group came today?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think? Do you think that the citizens have enough information to make good choices?
Yeah.
Do you think they do? All right, politicians, do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Back to you, Gail, and then we'll go to you, Phil.
Well, there's a reason that the truism goes like this. The people get the government they deserve. That you get out of it what you put into it. And I'm not putting down anybody who's here today who's participated and continues to participate in the process. The problem is, even this isn't the real world, folks. You're not the real world either. And it's absolutely the folks who live on your street, who go to your schools, and otherwise participate in other parts of our society that don't come here and watch town hall and otherwise know enough to get involved.
Let's see if you agree with that. That's a statement we hear. How many people here, let's have a show of hands, how many people agree with that statement? We get the government we deserve, that we're getting the government we deserve. Well, there it looks like the citizens, by a more majority vote, have kind of indicted themselves, haven't they? Mayor, back to you.
Well, I just wanted to say on the fact of information, and we're dealing with different levels of government here that you have to understand, and I'm talking from a small local city level. I have held town hall meetings since the day I was elected 3 years ago, and our biggest attendance at any one of those meetings in a city of 15,600 is 9 people.
All right, we'll be moving on. Now, part of every marriage counseling, which is what we have going here between the two parties, is to ask the parties to give each other advice
on what you can do to make it work. When we come back, that's what we're going to ask each of you here to do, to give the other advice of what we can do to make it work. We'll be right back right after this.
It's the new Bismarck. It's a whole new ball game. It's a new Bismarck. Smarter business for your business.
3 convenient locations.
It's the last one, I'll smile.
Driving alone to downtown sure is convenient. There's the convenience of having lots of neighbors around you, of making frequent visits to the gas station, the convenience of being able to go where you want, when you want, of breathing clean air, the convenience of downtown parking. If driving alone's this convenient, why is it that every weekday tens of thousands of Portland area residents choose to leave their car home and take TriMet?
Elena says that her doctor hypnotized her and took advantage of her. This is in the transcript. Dr. Baum says, you already have a strong sexual desire for me right now, don't you? Elena responded, yes. Do you remember any of that conversation?
No.
Imagine being sexually assaulted by your doctor and not even knowing it on the next Oprah.
Monday at 4 on KATU Channel 2.
Marla Maples gives Inside Edition her exclusive story.
Marla on Donald Trump.
Big male ego. Big male ego.
On the engagement band.
It's a beautiful, beautiful ring, but it's not what life is all about.
About rumored romance with singer Michael Bolton.
He's a friend, and I'm at a point where I can be more free to see friends.
And on her upcoming television appearance.
I played myself.
There's only one place to hear it straight from Marla. Watch Inside Edition.
Monday after ABC football on KATU Channel 2.
All right, we're going to go to our 2 somewhat estranged parties now, office holders and the public, and get some advice from each as to what they can do to make the relationship work. First, let me add, we have a couple of people here from government, so you can be targets. We have Barbara Clark, the city auditor, and Jim Gardner from Metro, representing a couple other agencies. Let me stroll up here now, if I can, into the audience. And again, what I want you to do, audience, is who has got some advice as how we can make it work? You, sir. You had your hand up.
Yeah. Oh.
Here, step back. Okay.
Kent Snyder. What I'm tired of seeing is politicians who are basically milquetoast, who won't say what they really believe and stand up for the convictions and go ahead and lead us down a direction. We want leadership. We don't want people that are going to be...
I'm going to put it to you. Do you think these people today are being milquetoast?
There are a couple of people up there. I think the gentleman that was sitting to your left...
Well, you don't have to identify them. We don't want a lawsuit.
No, but a lot of them have a history of being milquetoast. They need to stand up and say what they believe and lead us down a direction. Whether we like it or not, we respect leadership.
All right, there we go. He says, say what you think. Hold up, all right, going back here. Advice to our leaders as to how we can make it work.
I would like...
Want to identify yourself?
My name's Ann Shannon. And I'd like to see leadership and the public begin to think in terms of the long range, that in terms of what Bill Moyers had...
You mean, for example, like the end of the year?
No, I mean, there was a recent program that Bill Moyers had an Indian wise man or something like that on, who...
I thought he was dead. Is that the...
The Ogallala Sioux have a tradition of having the tribal leaders carry the 7th generation forward, that they're just...
All right, planning into the 7th generation. Let's move on along here and get some advice. Here's a gentleman who has some... Whoops, excuse me. Didn't tell me this was a hazardous job. What's your advice? Please identify yourself and tell us what's your advice.
I'm Ed Krause from Milwaukee. I think part of the problem is that as a result of recent ballot initiatives, government has become more centralized and decision-making process is leaving the local level and taxation responsibility is leaving the local level and being accumulated at the state level. It would be a lot more difficult for special interests and lobbyists to have to go cover the whole state territory to impact decisions that really should be made at the local level. And then if the power is concentrated at the state, I think that's a mistake.
Okay, thank you. We move on back down here now. Weave my way through. Do you want to come forward here? And you have some advice. How can we make it work? Identify yourself.
My name is Hardy Daring, and I think that the spirit of public service has been completely lost in the guise of ego and greed-based politics. I would like to see the politicians begin to think of themselves as public servants again.
Public servant. What to you is a public servant?
One who will listen to the electorate and do what the people vote.
One who will listen. What is it? Let's just surprise somebody here. Let me move right along here. And I'm going to surprise you. What's your name?
Celine Strowinski.
Celine, what's a public servant to you? What does that mean to you?
I'm a public servant.
Shall we disqualify her? No, we won't. You're a citizen. What does it mean to you? You don't know your job description? All right, we'll tell you. What is a public servant?
Chet Orloff. A public servant is someone who is planning for the citizens and explaining to them what the plan is and getting back from them what their ideas are and consolidating that, giving it back to them.
An interchange of ideas is what we just heard as a description of public servants. Now, let's go back to the other party. We've got some advice here. Can you get back? All right. The first thing I'm going to tell you is the first advice we got for you was to speak out, none of this milquetoast talk, and to say what you really think. Now, let's give advice to the other party there and tell them what you think that they can do to make it better. Shirley Gold.
Okay, I'll use the example of citizen initiative, whether you like it or not, taken by the folks who promoted Measure 5. That was a group of citizens who had a particular concern, organized themselves, got it passed by, again, whether I care for it or not, got it passed by convincing them, educating them, etc. Yes, the result is, as one of the gentlemen up there said, that one of the results is giving the state more control over your lives and my life.
All right, you brought up something I'll put to our office holders here. You've been saying, get involved, get involved. I would say that probably in the last 20 years, the most significant change wrought by citizen involvement was the passage of Measure 5. I'm going to ask you, office holders, how many think you got a good result out of that citizen involvement? How many think it was a good result? Now, what do you say about that? It looks like you really don't believe in citizen involvement. Phil Keisling?
Jack, there were some very good reasons that people voted yes for ballot measure 5, and one of it had to do with the failure of the legislature that I served in to address a problem that has been bedeviling us for over a century. But so there are both good and bad things about a particular measure, and we're always going to have agreements and disagreements. What I think, in response to the candor question, is perhaps the saddest thing in our politics is when someone calls me up and says, Phil, I'm trying to decide whether to vote for you, and I just have one question. And they're going to make up their mind yes or no based on that one single question, whether it's abortion or whether it's the death penalty or whether it's ballot measure 5. And if all of us played that game, if every single person in this audience had one question that was so important that they would make up their minds on any elected official based on that one question, our politics would completely collapse and we would never solve problems. We have to be able to lose gracefully on things because we're going to have to agree to disagree, and we have to get beyond the politics of selfishness that elevate the particular issue that drives you, that you're passionate about, and all of us have those, to the exclusion of all others.
Now, there is a common plea of office holders, and you've heard it in this context. It is, don't judge us on just one issue. Don't be blind to the entire record. I think they'd all agree with that. Now, how many people here, let's see a show of hands, how many people here are single-issue voters? Why, now, come on. Let's talk about candor now. Can that be? If we believe it, we say that none of them are.
All right, back to the citizens. How do you respond to that idea of your single issue concern? Right there, you, sir. I think probably a lot of people know who that is.
My name is Don McIntyre. I was instrumental in ballot measure 5. I have a number of comments, but I'd like to address the single issue.
Yeah, please address just that, Don.
Criticism of the citizens. I'd like to reverse that and point out to them that the operative word for them is single issue. That is their own re-election. That is what drives these people. And we've heard the term, again, special interest. You asked them who the special interests are. Not one of them said who the most powerful special interests are. The special interests are, the most powerful ones, are government itself. The public employee unions, specifically large business organizations that are very close to government, they call the tune because these people have a special interest, their own re-election.
What can they do, office holders? What can they do effectively to make themselves feel that they've been heard? Neil, do you want to pick up on that?
Well, Jack, I'd like to give a piece of advice, one to each side, if I could.
Go
fair
ahead.
enough. The first one is advice to the office holders, whether they're sitting here or elsewhere. The fundamental fact of American life is that Americans are getting poorer. They are going to take their money back from the government. The only question is, are we going to help them do it intelligently? I think the vote on 5 was basically a message. We haven't done it so far, and I think a lot of folks there today would say we're not sure it's going to happen even then. Second, to the citizens, there's a lot of talk about what makes a difference, but actually when folks go to the polls, their stomachs tell them what makes a difference. Things that make a difference get their attention. Unemployment gets their attention. If you're not helping their kids get jobs, the government isn't performing. If they're an obstruction to the economy, the government isn't performing. Citizens, we had almost no gang members 3 years ago. We're at 2,000 now. We're going to be at 4,000 gang members if we don't do something about it. Nobody's talking about that. It doesn't make any difference how many meetings you go to about something else. If the town isn't safe, people are going to say so. So ultimately, I think the citizens have to put the big stuff at the top of the list and pound away, and it'll get done.
All right, there's another message that says, let's have some priorities. Let's work on the things that are most important. Mike Burton, more advice to the citizens on how to
I think
make
the thing they need to do is do exactly what they're doing right now, and that's keep the fire to our feet, because it is part of the responsibility of government to go both ways. They need to show out. The other thing, I think, for most of us, at least legislatures, keep us part-time. Keep us barefoot and pregnant. Don't make this so attractive that we want to continue to do it. And there is a term limitation, and the term limitation occurs every time you go to the ballot box. You can throw us out, and the fact is that 96% of incumbents keep getting reelected. So if you want to do term limitations, that's in your hands to throw the bums out if they're not doing what you say.
All right, we've heard some advice to the citizens. Let's see how they respond to the advice. Yes, you sir, right there, right by the microphone.
I think we need to get to the real issue. Your job is to protect the rights of the individuals of this country. You go beyond that, you're out of line. And citizens who expect more are out of line.
All right, let's see, right there. Front row up. No, you need the microphone.
Gussie Clark, City Club member and member of the Government and Taxation Standing Committee. I personally would like to see campaigns that are based on what you're going to do for us and not attacking the other person in the campaigns. I really want to hear what your ideas are so that when I vote for you, I can make responsible choices based on what your opinions and actions are.
Okay, let me ask for another show of hands. How many people out there dislike the negative campaigning? Now, office holders, do you believe that? Do you believe that? No. Who said no? Gretchen Kafoury says she doesn't believe you.
No, I think it works is the problem. People are finding that negative campaigning does influence the voters, and I think when they find out it doesn't work anymore, then it'll quit.
Is there any, just before we go to you, Earl, is there any doubt about how people can stop negative campaigning, Earl?
Stop rewarding people who do it. But, Jack, I think that's symptomatic of the larger issue you talked about. You described this as a domestic squabble. And I think one of the things that happens in domestic squabbles is that people start raising their voices. And I think what's happening, at least in the arenas that I work in, is that people on both sides are being exaggerated in terms of what they're saying, they're simplifying, they're talking louder, and they're not listening. And then we've got marriage counselors. Sometimes, I shouldn't point to you, but you're the closest person in the media, who instead of trying to help solve the problem. Sometimes we have some marriage counselors in the media who will say, for example, you heard here earlier some concerns about what doesn't work, and then you said, well, they're telling you that you're apathetic and you're this and you're that, and you in terms of simplifying, and I knew why you were doing it. You want to have a good show. But the problem is I'm getting real tired of spending my life in areas where people are trying to get a good show and raising their voices on things that I'd spent. There are good people on these stage. My good friend Vera Katz and I, a whole host of folks, are trying to get things done.
We can count on you for positive campaigns,
well,
is that right?
Absolutely, but more important, what we'd like is maybe to lower the decibel level and maybe have some of you folks in the media, instead of trying to accentuate and pick up the negatives, try and find out where there is some agreement and deal with the fact and the substance and what we've done, and then hold us accountable for that.
All right, let's do this. Who's here? Who's here? Okay, who's here? I'm a citizen moderator, but no, look, really, there's a point. There's a point. You say we don't like negative advertising, but is the media whetting your appetite for negative? Is that the kind of coverage? Who's here from the media? You're citizens too. Jeff. Right there. From the Oregonian. Jeff, I'll put the question to you since this is an open forum. Do you think that the media, yes, you're going to cover and be covered, is the media guilty? Are you looking for a show? Are you looking for a good story? Are you looking for conflict that will, are you raising the level of the voices yourself? Is the media guilty of that? Jeff Mapes of the Oregonian.
Yeah, I think it can be. People magazine has about 2 million in circulation. Ask Phil Keisling what the circulation was of his old magazine.
So that really comes back to, I guess, is what you're saying it's what the people want?
To an extent.
He says, all right, if you're getting negative coverage, if they're raising the level. Do you agree with that, Earl? That in that regard, is that the media is giving the people what they want?
Yes, but I honestly believe in this community there is a market for honest, principled journalism, and I don't think we have to have People magazine or personal attacks or trying to make caricatures out of stuff that's too important to be treated that way. It's not fair to the people out there, and it's not fair to the men and women, those faceless bureaucrats that everybody kicks around, most of whom show up every day trying to do a good job, and I don't think it's fair to make it this cartoon character.
All right, the office holders responding to the media as well as to the public. Now, we're going to take a final break, and when we come back, we're going to have a view from inside and outside. We'll be right back right after this.
Every day at the office, it's the same old thing. At home, I look for something different, something easy. And I get it with the variety of 9 chicken sauce blends by Shilling. They're convenient, and my family loves them.
Liven up your ordinary chicken with deliciously different chicken sauce blends. They're made by Shilling, and that's all you need to know.
Get that, will you, dear?
The ultimate bedding sale at Smith's Home Furnishings is your opportunity for tremendous savings on famous name mattresses. Choose from Sealy, Simmons, and Spring Air mattresses at amazing low prices. Whatever style, size, or cover you're looking for, you'll find on sale right now at Smith's. Plus, no down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest until April 1992. It's the bedding event of the year. The ultimate bedding sale on Sealy, Simmons, and Spring Air mattresses at Smith's.
A wildfire in the Columbia River Gorge threatens baby salmon. Good evening, I'm Phyllis Burke. Tonight on Channel 2 News at 11, firefighters are working to control that fire burning on 160 acres near the Bonneville Dam. The flames are threatening a fish hatchery. Abortion protesters line the streets of Portland to form a so-called chain of life. At 11, we'll tell you about similar protests in cities across the nation. And hold on to your stomach, we'll take you for a ride that never seems to end. We'll see you at 11.
On the next all-new WKRP in Cincinnati...
Les is dying.
What? That's the bad news, but here's the good news.
Do you have any plans for tonight?
But who wouldn't die for a date with Mona?
I don't want pity.
How about a new lease on life?
It's me. I think Les has finally slipped his leash and is now dancing with wolves. Homeboy!
Is Les on his last leg?
Let's go kick some butt.
Don't miss it!
Tonight at 11:30 on KATU Channel 2.
Tonight, the summer's hottest couple
Get up, Mike.
cools off.
You don't just want to be with me. You want to be seen with me.
I thought he loved me.
Life goes on. Then it's all new and all you, from mighty marriage encounters to mixed-up mutts and diving disasters. It's a mouth-watering new season of America's Funniest Home Videos. And
you can't touch this.
Keep smiling with America's Funniest People.
Tonight on KATU Channel 2.
All right, as promised, a view from inside and outside from citizen, former Governor Neil Goldschmidt. Neil, what have you heard today?
Thanks, Jack. One thing, it strikes me, particularly the example of the man who called the Justice Department. Government's really got to learn to do the little things well. Confidence comes from that. I think politeness is on the list. Lots of other things are. The second lesson for me is that we've got to make sure our citizens, and I mean Neil Goldschmidt, is focused on things that government can do that make a difference. And maybe a final point, and I want to say this in regard to a gentleman who talked about liberty. There's an opportunity for all of us to do more for ourselves personally and to help people who aren't able to do for themselves. I think there is a habit in government to looking to government to solve the problem. There's nothing wrong with a little candor from all of us in office when people come to us and say, why don't you fix this, to say, I don't think government ought to do it at all. It's not a bad answer.
All right, I'll close by saying, let's fix it ourselves. I agree with one thing you heard here that's true. I think we do get the kind of government that we deserve, and we brought it out here. We get the kind of media we deserve. If you don't like the people who are doing the job for you, vote them out. If you don't like negative campaigning, don't vote for the people who do negative campaigning. If you don't like the media, don't subscribe. If you don't think Town Hall isn't doing the job, turn it off. You can get rid of us easy. And the politicians, the office holders are the same. So let's not blame the other people. It's our business. Let's tend to it ourselves. Let's get to business. Thanks for tuning in to Town Hall. Good night.
People who believe they've experienced miracle cures next week on Town Hall. This program was made possible with the generous assistance of the City Club of Portland.